Hello and welcome. In today's video, we're going to take a plain tray and transform it with Wood U Bend and paint. I have this Wood U Bend trim. It's number TR725, and to use it, the first thing you want to do is heat it up. You can see that once it's heated, it's no longer rigid. It becomes really bendy, and you want to make sure that it's flexible before you cut it or apply it to your piece. So here I'm just using my heat tool to do that. To cut my pieces, I did a strip for each side, and I laid my board or my tray onto the trim and then just used a marker. Next, I used my just regular scissors to cut it. It's very easy to do. You just want to be careful and follow along those lines. You could also use an X-Acto knife for something like this. Just be sure to protect your surface so you don't cut into something you didn't mean to. Once all of my trim is cut, it was time to apply Titebond Quick and Thick glue. I want to make sure to get all the way to the edges, and then I applied each piece to each side individually. I wanted to be careful to make sure that I was using the, that I had it in place the way I wanted it. Once it's in place, you can also then use clamps to hold it in place. And if you have any excess glue, it's not a problem. I just used a baby wipe to clean that up. And then I carefully positioned my trim in place. I did have this one little area with a gap, but it's easy to fix by heating it up because the Wood U Bend trim can be stretched by about 10%. So I heated that up and then held it in place with one hand and then secured that corner with the other. Next, I painted the entire tray out in Wise Owl's Chalk Synthesis paint in the beautiful color Iron Oxide. This is going to give it a little bit of a wood tone finish as well, and I also did this to the trim pieces. I'm going to do a full coat. I just did one coat of this, and we're going to kind of distress back a little bit. So I just applied this all over the entire tray and let that dry. I'm creating a 3-color finish on this piece, and so for the inside and the edges of the tray, I am just dry brushing really randomly. You're going to think I'm nuts because it's going to look so messy, but I'm applying Wise Owl's metallic gilding paint in the color Gold Dust to the inside of the tray. I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently on the trim sides, but here I'm just randomly applying some gold because I'm going to want that to show through along with the rust. It's just going to create some interest in the finish, and you'll be able to see all 3 colors when we're finished with this. Next, I applied Posh Chalk's crackling gel to the entire piece. I was careful to push it into the details of the trim, and I also did this on the inside of the tray. This is going to allow the rust color on the trim to show through, and it's going to let that gold show through with the rust color on the inside. I hope that makes sense. Once the crackling gel was dry, I then applied my top color, which is this gorgeous, gorgeous color. It's by Wise Owl Paint. This is the Chalk Synthesis formula, and it's Charleston Green. I think it's going to look beautiful for fall and for the Christmas holidays, as well as all year round. It'll just depend on how you style it. So I'm applying a full coat of this, and you'll begin to see the crackle effect take place. So that messy gold paint actually doesn't look messy anymore. It just allows these little bits of that gold to pop through. So I also did this with the trim and applied that Charleston Green all over the trim, the entire piece really as well. When the Charleston Green was dry, I used a baby wipe to do a wet distress technique. This is in lieu of sandpaper. And what I'm doing is just rubbing that paint away from some of the areas to further bring out that iron oxide that's underneath. It just gives a lot of interest. And again, the iron oxide with this finish gives it like an exposed wood finish, which I think is really beautiful. I wanted to add just a little more to this. So I'm using a fan brush because it has very delicate bristles, and I'm applying more of that gold dust to the trim and also along the edges of the tray. Now it was time to seal, and I'm using Wise Owl's 1 Hour Enamel Clear Coat in satin so that I don't interfere with the gilding. I still want that gilding sheen to exist, and so I can't use a matte because that would mattify the sheen. And so I'm being careful not to let the medium pool up, and you can see I think it just added a great little touch. I really love how this once plain tray turned out, and I hope you do too. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, like and share this video. Thank you so much, and happy creating.